Hey, welcome to the Strategic Success Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Fricky. Thanks for tuning in.
I am super excited to have one of my really good buddies here, Ryan Larussa. You may not know this, but along with, I would say, Julie Jenkins, you're probably one of the most impactful guys in my career. Just, we've been knowing each other since I got started, and I remember walking in your office probably 7 years ago, and you kind of introducing me to some ideas around coaching and mindset. And it's been a fun time getting to know you. And I appreciate everything you've done for me and the time we get to spend together, buddy. So
thank you, man. Appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. Look forward to adding some value. And I think going back to mindset, I think that's one of the things right now that after 23 years of being in this industry, if your mindset's not correct, I just came back from a coaching seminar the last 3 days of last week. And there's a lot of changes going on, and it all starts with what you can control, which is your mindset and your actions.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of great mortgage companies, a lot of great title companies, but one thing I know at the end of the day we can control is mindset and attitude. So looking forward to spending some time with you guys. Thank you for all you do. I still remember when you walked into my office, good-looking guy, got a cool vibe to him. All the women, when you're leaving, they're like, "Who is that guy?" I'm like, "Hey, he's married. He's good."
They wanted to know your hair routine.
I'm good.
They wanted to know your hair routine. That's what it was.
And he's married, so back off.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
So just to let everybody know who you are. So you're Ryan Larussa.
Yeah.
You've been a loan officer for 23 years.
I have been. Yeah.
Currently at GMFS. You've been there for a long time.
Yeah, since 2008 when the market crashed. I know there's a lot of changes coming up in July. I've been through a ton of changes. 2008, that was the scariest time I've ever been through. Wife didn't work. I had 2 kids. Income was down 60, 70%. If you remember, the stock market got crushed as well. Mm-hmm. At that point, I was like, you know what? If I fail again, I'm never going to go down with all my eggs in one basket. So GMFS was looking for a retail platform. We had a pretty decent one. We were just looking, honestly, for a lifeline. And so at that moment, we were like, hey, guys, we need to lock arms. We had like 20 employees. We were down to 3. They had a couple hundred. They were down to less than 30. It was a very scary time for many of us.
So you own that business?
I do not own GMFS.
No. But you owned the business that GMFS partnered with.
Prior to, yeah. Okay. So we married. We married with them. It was a great match. They were heavily known in the wholesale industry. We kind of brought the retail platform there. A lot of subprime stuff being done. To be honest, I was scared to death of purchases and real estate agents and title companies. I was like, man, I know a refinance in and out, but I don't really know purchases. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth. Left Southeastern in 01 for the first 7 years. You couldn't do anything wrong in the mortgage business. I know a lot of people said, "Oh my gosh, man, is it ever going to end?" And we all thought that it wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And it was a brutal end to a very short run. When you think back, 6 or 7 years is not that long, right? And it came to a hard crash. And so been through a lot of change, been through a lot of hurricanes, floods, different things like that. So just excited to kind of bring my experience to the table. It's not just me. I have a great team around me, a small team here at GMFS in Baton Rouge. We do business all across the country, and I think licensed in about 11 different states right now. So helping people all up and down the Gulf Coast region. And again, our team is what really makes it, not just me.
Yeah. So let's go back to from when you get. So in 2008, when you came over, you brought over your whole team, and over that period of time, I've known we got to know each other in like 2016. So probably halfway between then and now. You were doing you were productive and successful at that point. But like we've talked, we've kind of gone through cycles, and we had ups and downs whenever Trid happened and, Ida happened, a lot of things. And
the floods of Baton Rouge, all that stuff.
That's 16. Yeah.
And so you've built a team over the years, right? And it's taken you a second to get the right pieces in place. But last year in 2023, you were the number 2 most productive loan and mortgage team at GMFS. Is that right?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to be number 2 in the state, right behind Doug Bickley and then Stephanie Machado, which is obviously with GMFS. We've been very fortunate to be able to do some pretty cool things. We helped about 270 families last year, which was just in a very tough year. We were very fortunate to be able to have some, a little bit of success. And I think the big thing, which you had mentioned, is like when you go through struggles, and that's what I want to encourage anybody today. It's like, hey, man, we all go through struggles.
Right.
I'm part of a great, coaching a company that kicks me in the tail every day. I don't need the kick in the tail, but I understand one thing: when you have accountability, that will create profitability.
Yeah.
And so when we look at our numbers and we look at the systematic approach, what we do is not brain surgeon. Hey, look, it's closing the deal. But in today's market, I've seen a lot of fallout, a lot of people homeless because 68% of the mortgage transactions do not go well. Of a poll, and you can go back and look, if you ask somebody, how was your mortgage experience? Most people are like, it was awful. Have you ever, if it was good, have you heard from the guy that helped you close in the past? And that's almost never, right? Yeah. So there's little bitty things that we help, not just our team, but our referral partners. And that's kind of what I like to talk about as well. It's like, man, what are you doing? Who are you doing business with? Because we know title company is super important. The agent's super important. The mortgage company, it's got to all work together to close that transaction in about 18 to 20 business days. Yeah. A lot of things got to happen.
Yeah.
So,
well, and in a challenging market, it requires skill, and a lot of people we would say that's common sense, but it's definitely getting tested with are all members of the team skilled? Yeah, and it's what are each part of the members of the team? What do they bring into the table? Because every single part is facing like issues, and with the challenges we're facing right now, it's like, hey, we need everyone batting well right now for us to get deals across the closing line. And so I can understand that. Look, going back to when, in 2008, you were talking about with that merger, that you're like, look, there was such a drastic drop of the team, right? Went from 100 to, 30 people, and then you said 30 to like 3 or something like that. It was something like that.
Scary.
So those are huge. Now, I'm not saying we're seeing those numbers right now, but we're definitely seeing movement where a lot of people are, maybe the homeowner who did a loan transaction, maybe they haven't heard from their lender because they're no longer in the business,
right?
Or their agent, right?
Sure.
Whatever that may look like. And so in this time when things are changing and challenging, that's critical that you're showing up where the team is a vital part, but that, hey, like, what does that look like? So what is something that, when it comes to your team, what are some of the things that you're encouraging your team with right now? For example, these fallouts and whatnot. How are you, for example, right now with the leadership of your team saying like, hey, hey, things aren't easy right now, so I can't say, hey, things are all rosy and fine. But what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a very simplistic approach, and I think anytime you see a shift in the market, you got to go back to the basics. I hate to hear that because I'm a big rock thinker. I like to go out there and conquer the world. But at the end of the day, when we show up every day, it's all about impacting at least one family a day. So if we can do that, and we can go get 4 or 5 leads a day. One thing in my coaching seminar last week, we were talking about your hand. And so for all of my real estate agents out there, I said, look, think of your hand as this: your palm as one part of the business, your thumb, index finger, middle finger. And so we teach our agents and our referral partners that you have to have 6 pillars to be able to get business from. If I'm relying just on social media, or if I'm relying just on builders, or if I'm relying just on my past clients, that's not good enough. Because the truth of it is right now, you got to work about 3 or 4 times as hard to close about 50% of the business. But I know my numbers. And so we understand, and we help coach our agents on, hey, you're not getting enough at bats. Therefore, hey, if I don't get enough at bats, you can't get down on yourself. Same thing with my team. I walk in and say, hey, guys, we didn't have an application yesterday. How in the world are we going to hit our numbers by the end of the week? So again, it goes back to accountability equals profitability. If I know my numbers every day when we walk in, I look at my team, I say, hey, one, that's all I'm looking for today. I'm looking for one good application today. If we do 20 a month, 25 a month, guess what? At the end of the month, it's going to get the return that we want. I think right now, anybody that stayed in the business this long, I encourage everybody, hey, look, the worst is behind us. The best is in front of us. But now's the time to knuckle down. Now's not the time to retreat. Now's the time where you can go get more market share, because the mortgage guys that I know that were in the business, they went and did something different. 50 to 60% of the people are out of our business. So now is a great opportunity for you to go ahead and take charge of the market share in front of us. So that's kind of the mindset that we go after. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then I think too, the big picture is like right now, first time home buyers, they were boxed out of the market for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So where are we fishing? Are we fishing in that pond where first-time home buyers live? Because that's where we have to be fishing. Or are we fishing over here where somebody that really doesn't have to make a move? I would like to move. You might like to move, but what's the real need there? So we really got to uncover the need, figure out, hey, look, you're renting, paying $2,200 a month. Did you know that we could buy, and here's the route? And so a lot of times we just don't stop and think long enough. Hey, here's where the fish are. Let's fish over here and catch some of these.
Well, it's pivoting. And so it's smart. Like you were talking about how you weren't dealing in the wholesale market previously on the lending side.
Right.
And so, but when with GMFS, when you were like, hey, look, I wasn't dealing with purchases. I was dealing with refis. It's understanding when you need to pivot or when to say, hey, look, like those different pillars, it's knowing when to say, okay, hey, let's lean heavier on these because, hey, the market's pointing to that being more opportunity, more fish being there. That's smart. And I think it's necessary because people who basically stay the same all the time, the market's going to hurt them the worst because if they're not being, flexible with that.
So let's go back a second. So in my mind, when I look at mortgage lenders, I am in a way jealous because I feel as though from a marketing standpoint, y'all have the best opportunity because you not only have the agent referral partners,
right,
but you also have the opportunity to go after just the individual consumer. So like in my mind, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there's for you as a leader, there's really 3 areas of your business you focus on, right? There's your team and helping your team as a leader. There's the agents that you service and you partner with, and then there's your client base, your past clients that you can stay in touch with, right?
Right.
So let's just start with your team in general.
Yep.
So like you talked a little bit about accountability.
Yep.
So what does that look like? I know a lot of mortgage lenders and business owners in general don't have a system. They don't have structure. They don't have accountability. And so how do those 3 things play into your team?
Yeah, that's great. So COVID taught us a lot. I'll be honest. I hate to even talk about COVID, but we produced some unbelievable numbers during COVID. But one thing it uncovered is that you can do a lot when you're accountable to each other, right?
Whether like what you're capable of.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew that we could close 50 transactions a month? I didn't. Yeah. I mean, we were stuck at 18 to 20 forever, right? Yeah. But I think really what that uncovered is that we communicate like crazy. And what that means is every day at 9:15, if I'm there, team's there, doesn't matter if you're sick, whatnot, we have a team meeting every day. It might be a 10 or 15 minute huddle. We're talking about the previous day, the wins, not the losses, but the learning opportunities from the day before, because we never lose. We always learn, right? So we talk about that. We get excited about the opportunity. Every day has what we call a theme day. So today's Monday. So today I'm calling real estate agents, or excuse me, yesterday was Monday. I was calling real estate agents. How was your weekend? What's going on? Today is all about updating not only our clients, referral partners, title companies. So again, communication in this transaction. I don't care if you bought 1 house or 7 houses, you're still upset and concerned and nervous. Am I paying too much? Am I getting the right rate? Am I getting the right program? Right. So it's our job to break down those barriers and explain what's going on. So that's kind of our team aspect. Then you'd mentioned, hey, real estate agents and partners. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not worried. I'm not worried because I have a system. Now, if I didn't have a system, I would be worried about what's coming up in July. I've been through 2008, which was a market crash. I've been through Dodd-Frank, which was a huge, if you go back and look at Dodd-Frank from our angle, that was a huge, huge change. Guess what?
What year was that?
Yeah, that was around that 2012. It really started, it was delayed a couple years, but by the time it all hit the fan, really in 2012, 10 to 12 was kind of in that period. But here's the deal. So as crazy as this might sound, every loan officer out there was paid based upon a fee, not based upon a volume of what you do. So I heard things as, you will never close another deal. Everybody will go to a bank. There's no way you can disclose. Sure. We have to send out a RESPA package within 72 hours of everything, basically spelling it out to the client. Well, we don't even have all the information. Yeah. So if you really start to break down the process and what goes on behind the scenes from a lending standpoint, there was a lot of things that were like, man, there's no way we're going to be able to close deals. And guess what? We adapt, we adjust, we move forward. And I think the quicker we can wrap our mind around that, I don't like change. I've been doing this 23 years. I don't like change, but I understand it's inevitable, and we've got to adapt and adjust. And so connecting with the right title company, you guys do an amazing job. I know the updates I get from you. So I think that's super important. We can't get away from those type of things. Again, the client's sitting there like, I'm relying on you and you to make this thing happen. and I don't really know the right questions to ask. So we got to inform, and we got to educate, and we got to lead them from point A to point B through the process in a very short time.
And I love that. By the way, you guys just sent out a newsletter, which I read it and I learned something from it about the road home program and how they're going through the road home part. And that stuff like that's huge. And I think, first of all, there's being a educator. So, right, like it's a lot of times you can put on that trusted advisor role. And there's very few roles in society more, respected than that. Right. And communication's huge, right? Because the lack of it leads to all sorts of things. And so I think that's critical. I love that you guys, not only within your team, and I know it's hard to reflect on COVID and saying like, because it was crazy for many reasons. But it is also interesting to see, like, basically when you flood the system, what does the system do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you rise to the level of your system, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, so one of my business partners, he talks about breaking things. He's like, Courtney, don't worry, just break my system. Now he's my operator, my integrator. And he's like, and I'm like, I don't know, dude, that's going to he's like, break it because give the pressure, it'll find the cracks, but then you improve. Right. I'm sure there's things post COVID that y'all do now that you didn't do now that the market has settled, right? Versus the rush of those low interest rate loans. That you guys do now that your system has adjusted because of that pressure from COVID.
That's the beauty of a team. I mean, like I say that all the time. We have the way we're set up. It's, Lauren kind of manages the operations. Lauren and Becky, John and Becky are in there day to day on the law firm and the title company. And my job is to get enough business to continue to push our processes to be better. But again, going back to the way the leadership and within your team, like that, I like the idea that you are operating your business like a business, because most people just don't understand that concept. And the general rules of business apply to every business, right? You've got to have consistency. You've got to have meetings with your team. You got to hold them accountable and have standards. And one of the things that EOS teaches, which is the operating system that we base our systems on, it's like everybody should have a number. Yeah. Like everybody should have a number that they're trying to meet. At least one number. Yep. So it's like as a salesperson, like we have to have one, like for me, it's 10 phone calls and conversations a day. Yeah. Like that's my number. If I'm not doing that, then I'm not moving the needle forward. And if you set your goal of X amount of deals and X amount of dollars per year, if you backtrack that to the one task you have to do every day that's going to get you to that point, you don't have to focus on this big number that you're trying to accomplish. It's just the daily grind. And when you wrap your brain around the idea that this is inevitable, you're going to do this for the lifetime of your career, no matter what cycle of the market you're in. You may have to uptake a little bit during a down market. You may be able to pull back a little bit because you got more stuff to handle whenever it's an up market. But at the end of the day, it's the little things you have to do every single day.
I agree with that.
And it's hard to get loan officers that understand that, right? And you've got 2 or 3 on your team now that are rock stars. I mean, Adam's been with you for a while. Yep. What are the names?
Saida.
Yeah, she's been there for about 6 years. Yeah. So talk about them and how y'all played and worked together.
Yeah. So I think the cool dynamic is again, it's you win, we win, right? And so that's kind of how we look at it. But we kind of have myself, which I've been doing it for a while, 45. Then we have Adam, which is right around 30, and then Saida's at 28 to 30. All athletes, ex-athletes, so they kind of understand, man, this is part of the territory.
They understand the reps.
Yeah, we got to, Ed Milet's my guy, he's always about the power of one more, and that's so true. One more phone call, one more rep in the gym, one more appointment. What can you do to bring the level from an 8 to a 10? What do you need to do? Yeah. And so coaching is a big part, as you well know, and I know you as well, man. Coaching is that's the game changer. That's the needle mover to where people always ask, what's the difference? Hey, if Michael Jordan, if Tiger Woods, if some of the best golfers and athletes in the world need a coach, who do I think I am that I don't need a coach, right? So we all get off charts.
So you have your own personal coach. Do you coach your team, or do they have their own?
Yeah,
they have their own.
Yeah,
coach?
No. So I coach them, and then I coach our agents that we do business with, and our referral partners, and our everybody can benefit. It's just do you want to implement? Yeah, right.
So I want to get into how you add value to your agents. I know you do unique stuff, but before we do that, tell me about your back office staff, because I mean, you walked in my office a second ago. We have 22 employees now, and like 3 or 4 of us are out there on a daily basis, like showing our face out there, and people see us and they, we get the pats on the back, but truly the staff behind us that follows our process day in and day out and grind through the difficult files and get things done, they're the ones that are making us look good and continuing the business.
Absolutely.
So I know you have at least one back office person. How do they all work with the team?
So we got 3 actually. So Nikhil and 2 Sarahs. And they have full all my agents, builders, referral partners have full access to my entire team, not just me, but to the back end, which makes them feel good because again, we're dealing with their paycheck, right? And so that's a very important task that we know as a team, like guys, it doesn't matter when it is. You got to answer the phone. You got to respond. You got to update on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's part of what we do. That's why that daily team meeting, that 15 to 30 minute team pipeline meeting or just a meeting in general to let them know, hey, I know today is going to be a challenge. Hey, it's whatever day it is, end of the month, whatnot. But every day we got to show up and perform. There is no day off. You know, it's just kind of the way kind of the way that we operate.
We have ours is not a daily meeting, but once a week, our front office person, Haley, who's like is really the one that keeps the machine moving consistently. Yeah, she's awesome. And there's 3 attorneys that we all split the files, but once a week we get on a call and go through every single file. And it's to get on making sure that our system's being followed. Because I mean, you inevitably things happen and you can miss a file but if you're constantly staying on top of your stuff and reviewing it, that's how you don't miss things. And it's boring. I mean, even the team, I have to remind them it's starting to take longer than we originally thought. Well, yeah, we got more business and that's good. But we have to, that has to be the foundation of our business. Because if we don't consistently stay on top of the communication, because that's really the whole point of it. It's to make sure that we're we're touching base with the right people on a regular basis. Because those files can lull you to sleep. You got one file that's in the system, waiting on a few things to be fixed, and you might forget about it, and then it sneaks up on you because everyone wants to close early. And if you'd have just been checking on it every week, you'd have been consistently following up and got an indication like, hey, we might be. So it's huge. I think, again, I just love the fact that you have a system within your organization because most people don't.
Well, I think you just mentioned the follow up is where the money's made, right? And so in today's world, I think depending on who you talk to, 6 to 10 follow ups before you get that meeting, right? I mean, that's huge. We were so accustomed in the last 3 to 4 years. Hey man, files are dropping in our lab, dropping in y'all's lab. Their systems were kind of broken, but you still look good, even though you looked a lot better than you really.
The P&L looked good for sure.
Right, that's right. But at the end of the day, right now, we got to pound the ground just to get 50% of the business. We got a great year going, and we had a great year last year, but we're still down 40 to 50%. So again, 3 times as much work for half the business. Yeah. Now we're gaining more market share, but locking arms with good partners is so vital.
Let's talk about that then. So, from like real estate investors, the people that and the way that I always look at it, it's like my referral partners and the people that I align with, the people that I just relate to in general and that I enjoy being around, right? I mean, we've been in this long enough to know that, there's a lot of people out there. There's enough business for, I wouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of business for a lot of people.
Sure.
I like to align with people that I can relate to and add value to and that are growing with me. And I know you feel the same way. So like you hold your team accountable and you coach them. How do you do that with your agents?
Yeah, so I think the first place that we got away from during COVID, myself included, was we were doing a lot of Zoom and we were doing a lot of, hey, checking in, phone calls. We don't do that. It's got to get face-to-face. We got to figure out the hole in their business, the hole in our business. What are you struggling with? What can I help you with? Yeah. A lot of people just, hey, give me the lead, give me this or that and the other. So it's a reciprocal relationship. But I think the first place where we always start is we sit down and we talk about, hey, look, I know it's a tough market. What are some things I can do to help you with your business right now? Is it prospecting? Is it team building? Is it, hey, look, man, I just need a fresh start. Maybe I just need accountability daily, weekly to help me grow. Maybe my scripts are not as good as what they have. You been role playing? Have you been doing some of the things that at the end of the day, not sexy, but they get the results, right? Yeah. If I told you, hey, we're going to get 80 leads this month. If we convert those at 25 or 30%, you're going to love that number. Yeah. But if you only get 8 or 10 leads and you have no idea where your business is coming from and you're not following up, you're just not going to be successful in this market. But I think going back to finding out the holes, getting face-to-face, having coffee, having lunch, having some mastermind groups, getting around other folks that are doing it at a high level is super, super huge. That conference I just got back from, They coach real estate agents and lenders all across the country. And just to get the charge when you're around like-minded people that are doing it, not in Louisiana, I'm talking about nationwide in different markets. So they can say it a little different in California than they can in New York. But at the end of the day, the numbers are still the same. You still have to measure things to get the end result. And so that's really what we focus on. And then just different personality types. I mean, hey, look, I'm a big believer in you got to know who you're dealing with. And I got to know if you send me a referral, that referral is a high D and I'm hitting with a bunch of weather and this, that, and the other. It's like, dude, give me the bullet points. Let's move forward.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of times when we go to pick up the phone for that lead or for to call that client, we're not anticipating what that objection is going to look like. And then we just get rolled over and we sit there, oh my gosh, what just happened? So just really being thoughtful about, hey, here's my goals in front of me. This is what I'm trying to go do on these next 10 phone calls. You mentioned, hey, I got to make 10 contacts a day. Same thing here. I know how many contacts I got to make. I know who I'm calling. I know what I'm going to say. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get you a referral because that's my job on that call is to figure out what I can do to get that person in the pipeline so we can close the deal and earn a referral. Yeah. That's what all of our business cards say. Hey, the biggest compliment's a referral. Well, what am I doing along the way to create that referral? Sure. Yeah. I think that's the most important part that we all got to go back to. And honestly, we all, myself included, got sloppy habits the last 3 or 4 years because business was easy.
Hey guys, Courtney Fricky here. We've got Aussie Steve. And look, if you have a deal that needs to get moved, Southeast Louisiana, even in South Mississippi, we're your folks. We are the largest dispo company, really in the greater New Orleans area, even Southeast Louisiana. We have great contacts in South Mississippi as well. Steve, why do we move more deals than others?
Just we're very deep in this market, so Greater New Orleans can be really confusing for national wholesalers. The comps are hard. We change block for block. We got flood zones. We get a lot of hurricanes and the likes, and just a lot of the national platforms don't have the buyers on their list. So we are deep with buyers, but we're deep with relationships, which is really important in this market. So we love JVing with out-of-state investors.
Like I said, we do a ton of business with other investors. So go to homebuyerlouisiana.com/Courtney. Fill out the information. We'll get in touch with you and we'll move this deal along.
Yeah. You reminded me, I literally just got done with that event today and I was just rolling through my head all the people I need to go follow up with after I get done because that's what it is. It's all about following up, sending people, reminding that you saw them.
Well, and that's a huge part. So I moved to where I'm 100% referral-based business. I don't do any prospecting, and I'm thankful for that. But a lot of people are like, oh, that must be nice. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I still have, instead of a CRM, I have, in my office, a whiteboard that it's like, hey, these are all the people that I need to talk to, follow up with, that I need to get with. And that's how business moves forward. And so it can't just be this placid, this laid back approach. And so one of the biggest things I'm hearing from you is intention. Mm-hmm. You are doing this by design. Yeah. Now, of course, we can talk about how the COVID years, whatever, you might have felt lazy or whatever. But here's the thing, though, you were still actively out there doing things. And so Jim Rohn talks about how success is not some catalytic event, right? Mm-hmm. It's not this big one-time thing, but it's, every single day you're going out there and you're doing the basics, the fundamentals, right? But he said on the other end of that, well, what is failure? It's not a big catalytic event. It's the lack of doing the fundamentals, right? Good. And so, it's all critical. So, and I loved how you mentioned about going to the conferences. You've been in the business for 23 years. Sometimes you find people who, they get in the business for a little while and they're like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
I've got it, right? Those, I'll go to 6 to 8 conferences a year, and I compare it to like going to the chiropractor. It like resets me, right? Mm-hmm. Like it helps keep me aligned. It helps keeping me on track. Obviously, it's continuing to add to my tool belt in the sense of sharpening my skills, and it's like the idea, if you want to cut down a tree, what do? Do you cut down for the whole time, or do you sharpen your axe?
Right.
Those are those things. And so those are things, I can hear it. You're bringing that to your referral partners. You're bringing that sharpened axe versus just, because a lot of people, they hear, oh, I need to call and talk to people, go have the coffees, do whatever. A lot of people don't do that. They're transactional, like you're talking about, right? They're just, bada boom, bada bang. What can you give me? Mm-hmm. But then you've got the people who at least know to pick up the phone or go do the coffee, but it's not lasting. Why? Because they're not depositing it into those relationships. It's all just withdrawals. Right. And so I can appreciate when people who are not transactional. Talk to me about, right now, like obviously the market is, especially in Louisiana, it's very difficult. Mm-hmm. I know you talk about how you're trying to help your referral partners and various things like that. with us not really, we can't guarantee what the next few weeks, things like that. Talked about some of the things that like on a normal week, is it like, how do you find new referral partners? And then how do you also continue to, I know you talked about with like existing ones where it's like, hey, how can I help you? Do you do the same thing with new ones, or do you do things differently?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to where's your business coming from. So for me, 85% of my business is from real estate agents, right? And so for my referral partners or my real estate agents, I said, hey, look, who are your VIPs? Who are you doing business with that you really have to lean on in a time like this? That's very important. But the next thing that I think, there's all this negative news. And look, I'm not a news guy. I don't listen to the news. Sure. I listen to this mindset, which I feed every single day. But more importantly, we've got to make sure that we're relaying real information. So if you went back, and I use this a lot with my clients and with my agents, I said, look, last year at the end of the year, October, November, December, very trying time.
Very
Rates
tough.
went way up. Market's going to crash, rents are going to go through the floor, and the prices of homes is going to plummet. So I quickly right now say, hey guys, if you just go back to this article and this article, what did it say? It's all this negative news. Right now, BlackRock, Zillow, the different, whether you like them or not, the pundits are out. CoreLogic up 5% year over year. Okay. Rents did not tank. Insurance is a big talking spot in Louisiana. We can talk about all the negatives, but we can also talk about the appreciation and you paying this amount of money in rent and doing these things. We just got to educate our clients. We can't be scared of, hey, it's a tough market. That depends. I mean, hey, the tough market, and what I saw was people writing 25, 30 offers, getting declined, getting beat out by cash. I had an offer 2 weeks ago we're working with. We went $55,000 over with a $5,000 escalation clause and lost it to a cash buyer. So, you don't hear about that information on the news, but that's real life stuff. So my mindset is, hey, look, I'm coming in that office. I'm going to pound VIPs, real estate agents, past clients. I'm going to work with builders, CPAs, divorce attorneys. So there's a lot of different areas that we can go get business from. It's all about what are we focusing on? I live in Baton Rouge. LSU's got the highest attendance that it's ever had, highest. So what do I initially think? Well, people are going to school there. They need housing, right? I know my son's going to LSU. I'm like, look, I'm not going to go put him on campus. I'm going to go buy a piece of real estate, and so coming up with creative ways to figure out what we can do to solve the need. And yes, the industry is getting shaken up right now, but our job is to solve the problem. And if we can solve the problem and we can come in there and come up with a solution, then we're going to become that client that client saying, hey, these guys are going to be here for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's what we all want.
It's so funny. I mean, we don't have to get into the NAR lawsuit because I don't know enough about it to even get into it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm not a news guy either. But every time there's a shift, there's an opportunity for somebody.
For sure.
Right? You got to be, and like we said, I mean, you don't like change, you do like change. When there is a shift, there's an opportunity. Right. And if you just sit there and you focus on the fact that you've got to change and you don't want to, then you're gonna have a hard time. If you focus on finding the opportunity and where the business is being had, there's going to be business to be had. Now, I will say this, and I've said this a couple of times, and I haven't anybody really challenged me on it. But the thing I think that's going to have the biggest effect on whether we can buy and sell or those transactions happening is if we can't get a hold of insurance, can't get a hold of the fact that the taxes are about to go up during a reassessment year. Right. And those two things are big. Right. Because that's going to affect people's ability to buy. That's right. As opposed to
the monthly affordability part.
Yeah. As opposed to the fact that these lawsuits are going to just shift how we do business. Those two things may affect whether we have business to be able to go get. So, and people are working on those things, but I think you're 100% right. There's always opportunity somewhere. Yeah. Right. Real estate investors are getting in the market, buying second homes, buying investment properties in a down market potentially. And if you live in a town with college town, you're going to have people that are going to be moving into town for school no matter what, right?
People are always buying, no matter what. There's closings happening every single day. But the reality there is, the question is, who are those clients? Right. And it may not be who you've always done business with. That's right. Right? It may not be that type of avatar client. I think that's important. And that's coming back to just knowing when to pivot, right? Yeah. And if you have to go learn a new skill, learn a new skill. Yep. If you have to, if you're rusty in an old skill, learn how to sharpen it. Yep. Whatever that looks like.
So we've touched on your team, we've touched on your agent and partners. So your past clients.
Yep.
Like I said, I think mortgage lenders have one of the biggest opportunities when it comes to the fact that not only do you get people on there when they buy, which is historically every 7 years, you get an opportunity to refinance them usually within some point between those 7 years, but also you can build relationships with your past clients and you can build relationships with real estate agents and other referral partners.
Right.
So how do you stay in touch with your past clients? What value do you add to them?
That's awesome. That's a great question. So, been blessed, fortunate, have about 4,000 past clients in this past 20-year career that I had. But here's what I know is there's no way I can work all 4,000 of those. So what I do and what I encourage a lot of my referral partners to do is pick 400 of them. Mm-hmm. So I could pick 400 and I could say, I had a great transaction with Susie. I had a great transaction with Jared. And then I make that a very intentional phone call to where we're building a collective relationship to where I can refer that back to the person that sent me that business. Mm-hmm. And that you're creating a client forever because I have several folks that I can't tell you. I mean, it's double digits, the number of transactions that I did. Yeah. The only reason I know is that I'll call them, hey man, what's going on? It has zero to do with business. I am intentional about finding out what's going on in there so I can figure out if there's a need there. Hey, if you don't need anything, maybe they call me I've had people call me, hey man, I'm looking to buy a car. Hey, boom, I connect them with somebody. It's all about making the connection. And I think a lot of us, it's been in the business for a long period of time. We get overwhelmed with our database. I don't care if you use Excel spreadsheet, what CRM, they all, in my opinion, are not great, but you have to start from somewhere. Yep. So go narrow down your database and let them know that that's a past client that's very important because a lot of times we don't do that. And I can't tell you how many trucks and cars and automobiles and houses that I bought, and I never hear from the guy. Or if that person is gone, you never hear from the person that is still at the dealership. It's like, goodness gracious, this is a business. It's all about, we are doing something that people only do 5 to 7 times their entire life. If you buy 5 to 7 houses, you're way on this end of the spectrum. Most people feel, okay, I'm going to buy a house. I might say in a couple of years, but some people, they might be in there a long period of time, So I think it's important. We got to really dial that down. Don't get so overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 or 2,000. Good. Let's narrow it down. 100. Give me your top 100 past clients that are your favorite people. Yeah. When's the last time you check on them? When's the last time you actually sent them something? When's the last time you did a client appreciation event? There's so many things that we can do to gain face-to-face time, which is to really find out a little bit about what's going on in their life. Yeah. I mean, that's the most important.
And so I've got a mentor. My main mentor has been investing since 1965.
Okay.
And he's still active in his 70s. One of the most, y'all have closed some files with me with him. He's very sharp guy. One of the number one things he has taught me is the whole follow-up. Now, as investors, not necessarily a service like most people would think, but what happens is he was like, Courtney, how many times have you gone and talked to the seller that you bought a house from in the past? Right? Like how many times? He has 4 families that he's done 78 transactions with.
Wow.
Over the years, right? I was with him just a few weeks ago, and he got an email from a guy he did a transaction with in the 80s that he kept up with. Guy he's critically ill. He got a diagnosis, and his family does not, basically, he didn't do all his estate planning.
Right.
And so now he's critically ill, the runway's short. And so he emailed him and said, hey, will you buy the remainder of my portfolio and take care of my family?
Yep.
Basically a last minute estate planning effort. But who did he do it with? He did it with the person who stayed in touch with and who did good business with him. Yep. I think that's huge.
Who he knows, likes, and trusts. I was on the way here today, and when I pull up in the parking lot, ex-chief of police in Baton Rouge shot me a message. Hey man, my son's going to Southeastern. I want to buy a property over there. I know you can help me. Give me a shout when you can. Yeah. That's what we do. It's not about, it's $150,000, $160,000 house. It's not going to change his life nor mine. Nope. At the end of the day, he knows me, he likes me, he trusts me, and he knows that I'm going to put the best deal together for him. And I think we gotta really soak that up. Take that as something to where, hey man, I don't take that for granted. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million deal or $100,000 deal. It's going to be done the exact same way through my process on my team. My team knows that. I know that. It doesn't matter his name. It's a person that's a client that we got to give the best client service that we can. So
when you
that's
check,
super
when
important.
you follow a residential real estate deal, that it doesn't matter. Like the zeros, number of zeros, it's a
Doesn't
process.
matter.
You hit that process every time, and I cannot tell you how much of a difference that makes whenever you have a checklist and a process. You just
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I've done deals with you that were, super low price points. And then, but, over the years, we've done them relationally. And then, boom, when I had that $8 million deal, I called you guys. And so it's like one of those things where it's like knowing that relationships are like ATMs, right? If all you do is withdraw, that thing's going to yell at you and say insufficient, right? But if you're depositing into it, if that deposit is quality and consistent, know that that's where this happens. And so I think that's huge because a lot of people don't get that, right? And then they get mad because they're like, oh well, I just got this $125,000 transaction, and it's not what everyone else is talking about on social media, these high numbers or whatever. I'm like, but people don't realize you need base hits.
Yep.
Like you need base hits and you need those relationships. You show up the same way. And that is the compound effect that eventually gets you to where you know.
If you run your numbers, it's going to consistently average themselves out. You might get 10 $100,000 deals, and then you're going to catch 5, $700,000 deals, and they all balance out. And it's funny how some real estate professionals lately have been coming up and saying, "I'm really slow right now. I was really busy, and I'm really slow." Well, if you go back to last year and you average last year's numbers, and you take this year's numbers and you average them out, you're probably going to be pretty consistent.
Pretty consistent.
And it's just you might have big spurts in this year, and then next year's a little more consistent. But you got to be able to be responsible enough to manage your systems and manage your money in order to get you through the ups and downs of what's going on. But one of the things that I've been telling to a lot of people, and I'm really glad you said it, that a database of 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people, that's just a Rolodex of phone numbers. You don't have relationships with those people.
Amen.
If you pick 4, 5, 600, it's still 600 is a lot of people.
A lot of people.
If you focus on them, and again, the ones that you have values that you can share, and the experiences that you can share, and reasons to get in front of them,
more than enough.
Yeah, EOS will teach you that the point of doing business is to business people that you love, people you care about, that you want to be around, right?
Yep.
And so if you think about it that way, one, you don't have to be upset if you don't get every single deal, and if you can be intentional within a small group of people, you can find plenty of money to help you accomplish your goal. Real estate agents, if they have 400 people in their database and they convert 10% of that every year, they're doing 40 deals a year. Yeah. That's a pretty good year for real estate agents.
That's huge.
And it's just consistently staying in touch with them. And then if you do that over 365 days, right? You spend 2 meetings with each one of them every year. That's 2 meetings a day. Yeah. I mean, it's really not that many meetings. Have a coffee, have a lunch, and get your business done the rest of the time. Even if you don't have face-to-face meetings with them every time. If you're doing like you're doing, and pick a day of the week and just take a group of them and follow up with them over a text message. It goes a long way. I tell this story a lot. There's a real estate agent in town that I do a lot of business with now, but whenever I first got in the business, she had another relationship. But for like 2 or 3 years, all I would do was consistently once or twice a month send her a nice text. I hope you have a great week.
Yep.
And she said, after a couple of years, I had to give you a shot because you were so nice to me for such a long period of time.
You deposited so much into that relationship.
And then we knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
And now we do all the work with her, right? And so like it just, one, it's consistency. One, it's doing it over a long period of time. And 3, it's just following a process and a routine and making sure that you're doing business with people that you care about.
People wouldn't want to send those text messages for a period of time. They'd send 1, maybe 5, and then they'd be like, this don't work.
This not working.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because I mean, like people who've been doing this longer, I've been doing it for 8 years. And like, you try to recruit people, and this goes back to the team and the leadership, and like they didn't see the consistency over time that now has resulted in the success that you have. Nope. And so they come in and they think that it's going to be a plug in. So it's hard to translate that sometimes, and it's just finding the right people that are willing to put in the time. And athletes like you have found generally understand what it means to every rep matters, and it takes a long time to get the muscles big enough to be at the top of your whatever. What
does Hermosi say? He said, you want success, be willing to delay gratification, and you'll find it, because most people aren't.
Yeah.
They're not willing to say, put in the work and not see instant results, right? So I think that's huge. Man, I think so. So talk to me about what do you want your legacy on the lending industry, whether that can be, your team, it can be the regional area. Yep. What do you want your legacy to look like?
Yeah. Integrity. Integrity. That's the number one thing I always tell, hey, look, there's a lot of things out there that can be done a lot of different ways. One thing's for sure, our yeses are yes and our nos are no. And it's all about integrity and character. After 23 years, I've seen a lot of people in the business come, a lot of people go. But at the end of the day, we've got to do things with character. We got to do what we say we're going to do. I know it sometimes stinks. But that's the most important part to me. I want to build a great small knit team, which I feel like team is kind of part of my DNA. I like that. I like to coach others. I like to help others. It's not about my name on a billboard or my name in a stat. That doesn't do a whole lot for me. But being able to build a relationship and have other young individuals, which I've been able to mentor a lot of people in my industry, and one day be able to pass that baton on to somebody else and say, hey, this is how I got it. This is how I'm leaving it. We did it great. We did it with integrity every single day. Wasn't great, but we don't stay in the mess. We might have had a bad day yesterday. Today's a brand new day. Yesterday was a pretty bad day. I got a cool lake house that I love to go to. A tree fell on it. So I could have let that wreck my entire week, or I could say, you know what? It's noon. I can't do anything about it. We can fix it. Same thing with a deal. A deal falls out. Hey, I don't want it to fall out. But did we do everything that we said we were going to do? Did we hold the utmost integrity? And did we update people along the way? Stuff happens. There's nothing you can do about it. It's how do you rebound from getting punched in the face? And right now, everybody in our industry has been punched, and it's tiring. And it was supposed to change by now. We're already middle of May, and it hadn't changed. How long is it going to last? I don't know. But I do know this, that there's no reason to get out. If you lock arms with great people, you're going to be gaining huge market share. And that's really what I want to pass on to the people and just give those guys in confidence. You got to do something. There's a lot of ways to make money out there right now. All the younger kids coming up, there's tons of ways. And I don't think it's a lack of they don't want to work. I just think that there's too many opportunities. Well, in our business, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of cool ways you can do things. You can go online in 2 seconds and find out a rate. But at the end of the day, is that most important? The interest rate, if you can't get the deal done? I talk to people every day. They've been working with somebody for 2, 3, 4 weeks. They can't get a call back.
Yeah.
What they were told at the beginning is not what it is at the end.
Well, look, I'm selling a deal. I'm hoping to close on a deal that I'm selling right now. And the first time they made an offer on it, they lost out because they didn't have the right. They didn't have their team. Their team wasn't right, including their lender, both their real estate agent and their lender, because it was a construction loan.
Yep.
And at the same time, and they fell in love with the property, right? And we went with a different offer. That offer ended up having an issue. We ended up backing away from that one, and then they immediately saw it back up. They had improved the agent and the lender situation, and then we should be closing, Lord willing, this week.
It makes a big deal.
Makes a big difference, and that's huge.
Yeah. So the on integrity part, I do believe that the fact that you've stayed successful that tells a lot about your integrity, because I've seen people get to the top, and that's when the spotlight hits them. And if you don't have integrity when that spotlight hits you, you ain't gonna last very long.
No, it's not gonna be good.
I've seen people get to there from hard work. Didn't have the moral bumpers in place.
It just amplifies what's inside of them. Yep.
So as we transition, as we finish up, because we got a few minutes to finish up, I want to talk about your team, your family. Yeah. Because I know family's a big deal to you, bro. And you know your boy is a big baseball player. You've been running around ballparks your whole life. Now he's going to LSU.
Yep.
So tell us about your family a little bit.
Yeah. So, man, wow. I don't feel this old, but I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I got a freshman at LSU, which that's been interesting for him to leave the house. But it's cool. Just like I just talked about, you want to mentor your kids to hopefully, see them go make an impact, but it's scary. So he left the house. He's doing great at LSU. And then I have a daughter that's super involved in cheer, and she's been doing that for a while, but she's a sophomore at St. Joseph's in Baton Rouge, and wow, my wife just keeps all of us running straight. But she puts up with a lot. Doing this job and doing what we do is stressful, right? And so to be able to turn it off and turn it on, but at the end of the day, if I asked anyone here, what are you doing all this for? You would say, I'm doing it for my family, right? Or I'm doing it for my fiance or whatever. But are we showing that at home? And so I always go back. My coach is always on me, is like, did you know that your calendar reflects your priorities. So I'm really big on time and intentionality with them. Hey, look, I'm going to work my tail off. I'm going to answer my phone at night, weekends, whatnot. But that's why we have a team. So I can step away, recharge, go spend time with the family, because that's what's most important. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. God willing, I can have a lot more years on earth, but that's super important to me. That's my why. That's my motivation. That's why I go and do what I do. But my family's super important. They've just been so supportive of this last, we went from working at home, close the door, closing all these deals, to where, oh my gosh, your business is down 60%. It doesn't matter. Your family, you walk in the door, they just want to know that you're good and that you're home, right?
Yeah.
All the other stuff, it's going to come and go. We can't take all that stuff with us, but they've been a huge part of my success.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because no matter what kind of a day I have at home, my kids answer the door the exact same way.
They're fired up.
Every
fired
time.
up.
And it doesn't matter. And, whether I get home at 5 or 8,
Yep.
they're in a run up to the door full speed and almost knock me over. And, it's a perspective shift for sure.
Sure.
Well, man, this was great.
Good.
This is hard to believe.
I enjoyed it.
You done it.
Time flies.
It's flies.
Man. I was nervous when I got here. You guys did an amazing job. What a cool office, and look forward to our relationship moving forward.
Yeah, cool.
Well, look, I love it, man. Tell people, if people want to get in touch with you or your team, what's the best way for them to either learn more about you, get in touch with you? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks. So we have a little YouTube channel, but obviously Ryan Larussa at GMFS Mortgage is an option there.
You can put that in the show notes
yeah,
too.
you can put that in the notes. 225-214-5153 is a direct line to me. If I'm not in the office, it'll bleed to my team. If my team's away, it'll bleed to my cell phone. So we're all big on communication. That's a big part of it. But 225-214-5153.
Cool.
That's great, man. Well, look, appreciate the conversation today.
Thanks, Courtney. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Jared, appreciate you.